If you've ever wondered where caffeine comes from and where caffeine is found in nature, this episode is for you. We'll talk about that as well as whether it matters when you get your caffeine from coffee or tea or energy drinks. All right, here we go. As a disclaimer, I like the S word, which appears maybe once or twice in this episode, so just be warned. Welcome to the Caffeine at Midnight podcast, a short, no BS, science-based podcast for people who drink caffeine and work beyond the 9 to 5. I'm your host, Danielle Robertson Rath, also known as Green-Eyed Guide. I research caffeine, energy drinks, and fatigue in the workplace. I'm the author of Are You a Monster or a Rock Star? A Guide to Energy Drinks, and How to Get Shit Done When You Feel Like Shit. Oh, by the way, I kind of like the S word, sorry. You can learn more about me, what I do, my books, my educational background, all that good stuff at GreenEyedGuide.com. For now, grab your favorite caffeinated beverage and your favorite note-taking app, and let's do this. This episode is sponsored by Anchor. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. It's completely free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor does all the hard work for you, distributing your podcasts to Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcast, and many, many more. You can go to anchor.fm to get started or download the free Anchor app. It's everything you need in one place to make a podcast. I highly recommend it. Hey everyone, welcome back to Caffeine at Midnight. Before we get started, the caffeinated beverage of the day, which is what I'm about to drink right now, is La Colombe coffee. I just learned, thanks to Google, that La Colombe means the dove, and in French, which is probably why I'm mispronouncing it, but it's a brand of ready-to-drink coffee. It's coffee that comes in a nice little can. The one I'm drinking is the Mocha Draft Latte. It's really, really yummy. It's chocolatey. For people that don't really like the taste of plain black coffee like me, this is perfect. There's 170 milligrams of caffeine in this 1 9-ounce can. And first of all, huge thanks to La Colombe for actually putting the amount of caffeine on the label. I think it's really important for people to know how much caffeine they're drinking. So thank you to La Colombe for actually doing that. Second of all, if you like mochas from Starbucks, this Mocha Draft Latte from La Colombe has about the amount of caffeine as 2 tall mochas from Starbucks. So a tall mocha from Starbucks has 90 milligrams of caffeine. This 9-ounce can has 170 milligrams. So it's kind of a 2-for-1. It's the size of a tall, but you're getting twice the amount of caffeine. And that caffeine's coming from a natural source. It's coming from cold-pressed coffee from Arabica beans. All right, let's dive into the good stuff. So let's start by talking about where caffeine is found in nature. Caffeine Informer, which is my favorite website ever, has this beautiful table of the 28 different plants and subspecies that contain caffeine. So this table includes plants and subspecies I've never heard of before and couldn't pronounce if I tried, as well as the things that a lot of people have known or heard of before, like guayusa, guarana, yerba mate, Theobroma cacao, which is chocolate, Camellia sinensis, which is tea, coffee arabica, coffee robusta, etc. I'll put the link to this table in the show notes if you're very curious about these other forms. But I guess the key takeaway here is there aren't that many different places in nature where caffeine is found in enough amounts for us to actually use it in a product. If it ever seems like people are discovering new forms of caffeine, they're really not. It's usually just a form of caffeine that's related to one of the plants that I just mentioned. For example, coffee berry was all the rage a couple years ago. It was this new up-and-coming thing, but really it's just part of the coffee arabica plant. Instead of just using the coffee bean that comes from the plant, they use the bean and the whole berry that surrounds it. It's like instead of just using the apple seeds, you're using the seeds, the pulp, the apple skin, everything. I mean, it's a great story because it reduces food waste, and I wrote a whole blog about it. But the key point here is that it's not a new form of caffeine, it's just a new way to use the old forms of caffeine. It's also worth noting that caffeine is a naturally occurring compound found in these plant species, and usually these plants come from the tropic or subtropic regions of the world. Now, there's an article where spiders make webs after they've had different substances. Like there's one spider that had LSD, there's one spider that had sleeping pills, a spider that had marijuana, and a spider that had caffeine. And usually people use this article as proof that caffeine is bad for you, because let me tell you, that spider web after the spider had caffeine is a mess. But you have to think about why caffeine is in the plant to begin with. Caffeine is a pesticide. It's not like these plants need help staying up at night. Caffeine is supposed to make the plant not taste good to bugs like spiders. So yeah, the reason that spider that made the web, the reason that spider web looks like a mess is because the spider was given a pesticide. So that's just something that drives me crazy. Okay, and finally, why does it matter where you get your caffeine from, whether you're having caffeine from coffee or tea or an energy drink? Well, there's two things you have to remember here. Once it's in your body, caffeine is caffeine is caffeine. It's going to affect you the same way regardless where it came from. If you have too much caffeine from soda, it's too much caffeine. It doesn't matter. Too much caffeine is too much caffeine. It will make you sick if you have too much. The thing that does matter is what else you're getting with the caffeine. So for example, if you're having your caffeine from coffee, you're not just getting the little caffeine molecule, you're also getting all the flavonoids and antioxidants in the coffee, in the the coffee drink. Same thing with tea. You're not just getting the little caffeine molecule, you're getting all of those other antioxidants in the tea. With energy drinks, you're getting caffeine plus whatever else they put in there. And whether they put carbonation or sugar in there with the caffeine molecule will change how caffeine affects you. I go into this in much greater detail in my book, which is How to Get Shit Done When You Feel Like Shit: Secrets to Caffeine, Motivation, and Productivity for the Sleep Deprived and Overwhelmed. I know it's a super long book title, but I wanted to make sure that it was really clear what the book is about. Anyways, there's a lot more details in that book about how the different ingredients in your caffeinated beverage of your choosing affect you. But the short of it is the caffeine molecule will affect you the same. It's the other stuff that comes with that caffeine molecule that's going to affect or going to change how caffeine is affecting you. So that's the key takeaway here. And with that, I think this podcast is long enough. So hopefully that information was helpful. I'll put the link to the Caffeine Informer article with the different plants containing caffeine, the link to the blog post I wrote about coffee berry, and the link to my book where I talk about all the different forms of caffeine in the show notes so you can explore all of those. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this was helpful, and we'll talk again soon. I hope this was helpful. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would really appreciate it if you shared it with at least one person. You can take a screenshot of the episode or share the link itself on whatever social media channel you like best. Please remember to tag me at GreenEyedGuide. And one more thing. If you enjoyed this episode, you might also enjoy some of the worksheets and ebooks in my freebie vault. Just visit greeneyedguide.com/freebies. Thanks again. Take a deep breath and remember, you've got this. Till next time, okay, bye.